Emily Thompson eased her beat-up hatchback into the parking lot of Paradise Condominiums, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the asphalt. She'd just finished a grueling shift at the call center, her headset still ringing in, her ears from 8 hours of customer complaints. Her only thought was getting upstairs to her 5-year-old son, Liam, whom her neighbor Mrs. Carter watched after school. Her shoulders ached, her eyes burned, and her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since breakfast. As she turned toward her assigned parking spot, number 12, she slammed on the brakes. A sleek black SUV sat smugly in her space, its chrome rims glinting like a taunt. Emily blinked, double-checking the faded number painted on the curb. Spot 12. Her spot. She muttered a curse under her breath and scanned the lot. No. The visitor spaces were full, as usual in this cramped urban complex. With a sigh, she circled around and squeezed into a spot at the far end, a good 5-minute walk from her building. Liam's going to be starving, she grumbled, grabbing her purse and locking the car. The walk felt endless, her sneakers scuffing against the pavement as she rehearsed her evening. Dinner, bath, bedtime story. She'd promised Liam macaroni and cheese, his favorite after a long day apart. When she reached Mrs. Carter's unit, Liam bounded into her arms, his backpack swinging wildly. "Mommy, we made paper airplanes today," he chirped, his energy a stark contrast to her fatigue. "That's awesome, buddy," Emily said, forcing a smile. "Let's get home." Back at their unit 204, she kicked off her shoes and collapsed onto the couch, Liam chattering about his day. Her mind drifted to the SUV. Maybe it was a one-time mistake, a visitor who didn't know the rules. She decided to give it the benefit of the doubt. Grabbing a notepad, she scribbled, "Hi, this is Spot 12, assigned to Unit 204. Please don't park here." Yikes. She trudged back outside, tucked the note under the SUV's wiper, and hoped that would settle it. But the next morning, as she loaded Liam into the car for school, the SUV was still there. Her note lay crumpled on the ground, smeared with dew. Emily's jaw tightened. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Chapter 2. The antagonist emerges after dropping Liam at school. Emily stopped by the condo office. The receptionist, Carla, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile, greeted her.
"Morning, Emily. What's up?"
"Someone's parking in my spot," Emily said, leaning on the counter. "A black SUV, license plate XYZ 123. It was there last night and this morning." Carla tapped at her computer. "Spot 12 is yours. No question. Let's see." Her eyes widened. "Oh, that's Mark Johnson's car. Oh, he's on the condo board." Emily's stomach sank. "Does that mean he can park wherever he wants?" "No way," Carla said firmly. "Assigned spots are private. Board or not, he's got no right. You should talk to him. He's in 305. Emily nodded. Though the idea of confronting a board member made her palms sweat, she wasn't one for conflict, but Liam's safety was non-negotiable. His asthma meant he needed quick access to their unit, especially if he had an attack. Parking far away wasn't just inconvenient, it was risky. That evening, after putting Liam to bed, she steeled herself and marched to Unit 35. She knocked. And a tall man with graying hair and a stern frown answered. "Yes," Mark said, eyeing her like she was a solicitor. "Hi, I'm Emily from 204. You've been parking in my spot, number 12. Mark crossed his arms. "I'm on the board. I've got business to handle, and the visitor spots are always taken. But it's my assigned spot," Emily said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I need it for my son." He shrugged. "It's not a big deal. I'll try to park elsewhere, but no promises." Emily bristled. "It is a big deal. I've left notes you ignored. If it's such a problem, you should have come to me." "Sooner," he snapped, then shut the door. She stood there, stunned, her cheeks burning. This wasn't over. Chapter 3. Escalation over the next week. Mark's SUV appeared in spot 12 3 more times. Each time, Emily left a note politer at first, then sharper. Each time, the notes ended up trashed. One night, she came home late from a double shift. Liam asleep in Mrs. Carter's arms, only to find her spot taken again. She parked at the lot's edge, the dark walk back, feeling endless and unsafe. By the time she carried Liam upstairs, her frustration boiled over. The next day, she called her brother Tom, a paralegal who'd dealt with petty disputes before. "What can I do, Tom? This guy's a jerk." "Check the bylaws," Tom advised. "Assigned spots are usually protected. If he's trespassing, you can tow him. Take pictures. 2 proofs is everything." Emily dug through her lease papers and found the condo rules. Assigned parking spaces are the exclusive property of the designated resident. Unauthorized vehicles may be removed at the owner's expense. She grinned. Game on. The following evening, Mark's SUV was back. Emily snapped photos, time-stamped, clear shots of the license plate in her spot. She called a tow company, her voice calm but firm. "I've got an unauthorized vehicle in my assigned spot. Can you help?" Within an hour, a tow truck rumbled into the lot. The driver, a burly guy named Joe, chuckled as he hooked up the SUV. "This your spot, huh? Some people got no manners." "Tell me about it," Emily said, watching with grim satisfaction as the SUV rolled away. She expected retaliation, and it came fast. That night, her doorbell rang furiously. She opened it to find Mark red-faced and seething. "You towed my car," he bellowed. "Yes," Emily said, arms crossed. "You've been warned repeatedly. I'm on the board. I need that spot for official business." "Official business doesn't trump my rights," she shot back. "It's my spot." He jabbed a finger at her. "You'll regret this. I can fine you, evict you, whatever I want." "Are you threatening me?" Her voice trembled, but she held her ground. "Consider it a warning." He stormed off, leaving Emily shaken but resolute. Chapter 4. The stakes rise the next morning. A notice slipped under her door. Violation. Unauthorized parking obstruction. It claimed she'd blocked a board-designated space and owed a $50 fine. Emily laughed bitterly. Mark was twisting the truth. She called Tom again. "He's making stuff up," Tom said. "Fight it at the next board meeting. Get other residents on your side." Emily nodded, determination growing. Liam's asthma had flared up that week, and she'd had to rush him to the doctor twice. Parking far away made those trips harder, especially when he was wheezing and scared. She wouldn't let Mark win. She started talking to neighbors. Mrs. Carter had a story. "Mark fined me for a flower pot he said was too big." Another. "Resident Javier from 108 complained he parks in my spot, too, when he feels like it." A quiet rebellion brewed. At the board meeting, Emily stood before a dozen residents and 5 board members, including Mark, who smirked from his seat. Linda, the board president, called for order. "I'm here about Mark Johnson parking in my spot, number 12, Emily began, holding up her photos. "He's done it repeatedly, ignored my requests, and threatened me when I had him towed," Mark interrupted. "This is personal nonsense. Let her speak," Linda said sharply. "He's abusing his position," Emily continued. "Not just me. Mothers have issues with him, too." Javier stood. "He's parked in my spot before. It's unfair." Mrs. Carter added, "He fined me over nothing." The room buzzed. Linda turned to Mark. "Explain yourself." "I'm on the board," he sputtered. "I need flexibility for my duties." "Duties don't include trespassing," Linda said. "We'll review this." Meeting adjourned. Emily felt a flicker of hope. She wasn't alone anymore. Chapter 5. The bollard solution. Mark backed off for a week. But Emily knew it wouldn't last. She needed a permanent fix. Tom suggested a retractable bollard metal post she could lock in place to block her spot. She ordered one online, got board approval thanks to Linda, and installed it herself one Saturday, Liam cheering her on. "Cool, Mommy. It's like a robot guard." He giggled as she tested the remote. The next day, Mark's SUV rolled up. He stopped short, staring at the bollard, then marched to her door. "Take that thing down," he barked. "It's against rules." "I have approval," Emily said, showing the email from Linda. "It's my spot." He glared, then stomped away. That night, she heard a clang outside. Peeking out, she saw Mark prying at the bollard with a crowbar. She grabbed her phone, recorded it, and called the police. 2 officers arrived as Mark fled. It was damaging. "My property," Emily said, showing the video. "We'll handle it," one said, taking her statement. Chapter 6. The final standoff, Mark's retaliation escalated. He slapped her with a $200 fine for vandalism, the bollard damage he'd caused. Emily appealed at the next meeting, her video evidence in hand. The room erupted as residents aired their grievances: Mark's, fines, favoritism, even rumors of skimming maintenance funds. Linda, fed up, called a vote. All in favor of removing Mark from the board? Hands shot up 9-2. Mark's face paled. "I do this." "It's done," Linda said. "Step down." He stormed out, defeated. The board tightened parking rules, and Emily's spot stayed hers. One evening, as she parked and walked Liam inside, he asked, "Is the bad man gone, Mommy?"
Yes.
"Sweetie," she said, hugging him. "We won." Epilogue: months later, Paradise condos felt lighter. Mark moved out, his influence gone. Emily's bollard stood as a quiet victory, a symbol of standing up to tyranny she'd fought for. Son, her home, and her peace and one. Asterisk.